In this video, I'll be addressing oil myths, and everything I'm going to be telling you for these 20 oil myths is all facts, none opinion, nothing like that, it's simply facts. So let's let the comment war begin. Let's get to it. If my car is in storage all year, or I don't drive it much, can I wait till my 3,000 mile oil change or no? Oil that sits for long periods of time contains byproducts from the combustion gases and acids that, when it sits, it's allowed to corrode the inside of the engine. Not necessarily corrode, but to eat away at the engine parts. So it's not good for the engine or the seals or any rubber that comes in contact, such as main seals and such. So it is recommended change the oil at least once a year, or drive the vehicle more often, and then you can extend your miles for your oil change. Does the type of oil impact horsepower? Oil helps maintain horsepower that you already have. It does not increase or decrease horsepower. It doesn't do anything to the engine except allow it to run the way it's supposed to within the tolerances set by the manufacturer. The oil just maintains the amount of horsepower you currently have. It doesn't improve and it doesn't degrade. What is the shelf life of oil? Oil is normally good for around 4 years. If it sits on a shelf in good conditions, not extremely hot, not super cold, stuff like that, and not open by any means. So roughly 4 years, but the additives may settle. It will allow separation inside the oil. So before you use it, be sure to give it a good shake before you use it. And also look at the API service donut and make sure that it's in compliance with the type of vehicle that you have. For instance, if your vehicle was made to run at the specific oil standards for 2013, but your oil is from 2009, it may not be compatible and the oil may not be up to par to the specifications that your manufacturer recommends for that vehicle. So just take a look at that. And normally, rule of thumb, if the oil is newer than your car, it's good. If it's older than your car, probably want to get a new one. Can I use high mileage oil if my car is new? The answer is yes. High mileage oil is made specifically to stop leaks from seals. It's able to expand seals, swell them up so that they can stop leaks in older vehicles or high mileage vehicles. It's good for new cars, it's good for old cars. It's the exact same oil that you would normally put in your vehicle, but it has an additive package that helps improve the longevity of seals to help prevent leaks. And of course, oil consumption, reduce that and all that. So it's good either for older or new, as long as you follow the manufacturer recommendations on the type of weight, and if it's going to be synthetic or conventional. Some manufacturers only call for one or the other. So look at your service manual to check for that. How long can I go between oil changes? Most people will tell you 3,000 miles. 3,000 miles, change your oil. That's normally what you do. But that is because of the quick oil change industry trying to pull more money out of people's pockets. Also, that came along a long time ago when oil wasn't as advanced as it is now. You can now go upwards of 7,000 miles without an oil change and the oil still performs beautifully. I would say follow your manufacturer recommendations. That's really the best thing you can do. Follow their recommendations on their oil change intervals and you'll be fine from there. I actually like this one. It says, synthetic oil causes leaks. It's not really a question, but I will address that. When synthetic oil was first introduced into the market, it had a tendency to slightly shrink seals, allowing for bigger gaps and oil leaks. That was a long time ago, and technology has advanced since then, and now you don't have to worry about that at all. Synthetic oil can be used in either regular cars, new cars, old cars, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's a high mileage car, synthetic oil can be put in anything. Some people will say it's not recommended simply because synthetic oil can slip into smaller areas that conventional oil can't. And because of that, it'll seem like there are leaks when there was already a leak to begin with. It's just slightly more pronounced now that synthetic oil can reach all of those little cracks and crannies that conventional couldn't. Black oil is spent oil and requires a change. If your oil is black, that has no indication whatsoever to the life or quality of the oil that you have in the vehicle. Just because it's black does not mean it needs to be changed. It's not color, it's function. So you can have black oil after changing your oil and going down the road like 10 miles and back, and it'll be black. But it's still fresh oil. Color has no indication on that. This is like an old-timer trick that they would use going back to the quick oil change industry, just trying to find easy ways to tell people that they need new oil. Once you use synthetic oil, you always have to use it. Synthetic oil does not change the engine at all in any way to make it to where it's impossible for you to change back to conventional oil or vice versa. You can switch between them freely. A long time ago, you weren't able to do that, so I believe that's why this myth exists. Nowadays, the oil is totally compatible with other synthetics or other conventionals, and that's why they have synthetic blends, which is a synthetic and a conventional put in one. So you get the benefits of synthetic oil, but you also get a slightly reduced price. But that's totally false. You can change them as much as you want. Oil additives are needed. That's a good one. Quality engine oils do not need any help from outside additives. You should always change your oil before a long trip. This is true, kind of. If before you leave for your trip, you know that during the time you'll be gone, your oil change interval will lapse, you should change your oil before you go. There's no harm in changing your oil early at all. It's totally fine. It's changing it way too late that can cause damage to the engine. But if your oil change interval will cover that time that you're out on the trip, then you're totally fine and good to go. I need a drink. I like this one. The W in 10W40 stands for weight. This, oh man, I got in so many arguments over this one. The W inside 10W40 or 0W40 or 30 or whatever it is, the W stands for winter. And I know I can hear all the people flipping out right now. No, it stands for winter. That's a fact. The reason it stands for winter is because let's put 10W40. Let's just say that. 10W40. The 10 is specifying the viscosity for a low temperature condition, winter, which is why there's a W next to the 10. And 40 is a high temperature viscosity. That's called a multi-viscosity oil. It can be from 10 to 40, 10W40, winter and hot. That's why the W's there. It stands for winter. Does the oil filter have to be changed every oil change? Yes. The oil filter has to be changed out every time you do an oil change because the purpose that an oil filter serves is to filter out particulates, metal shavings, all that, and make sure that the oil stays clean and debris free. If the oil filter gets clogged because you don't change it, then it can start forcing those particulates that it caught into the engine and will no longer filter, causing excessive damage and premature wear. Switching motor oil brands is harmful to the engine. Switching oil brands is totally safe. And the reason for that is, as long as it meets the same API donut certifications that the manufacturer specifies that oil needs to have, which would normally be that year it was manufactured or later, then it's totally fine. In some cases, it's still totally fine to run it when the oil is before the date of manufacture. Just look at your manufacturer recommendations to see what the API standards are supposed to be for your vehicle, but it should be no problem. Using recycled motor oil will void your warranty. Major car manufacturers recognize any oil, including recycled oil, as a allowed oil as long as it meets or exceeds the current API certifications, which means recycled oil is or can be just as good as brand new oil. There's nothing wrong with it. It's filtered, it's remanufactured, and it's good to go. It's been through tests and it passes it. Just make sure that the oil that you select that is recycled meets the API certifications that your vehicle requires. More oil is better. Some people have an oil leak, and so to compensate for that oil leak, they like to add more oil than what their car recommends. And that is actually going to do more harm than good. Reason being, if you fill your oil level higher than the maximum limit on your dipstick, the reason why it's going to cause damage is because your PCV valve may start pushing oil inside of your air intake system, which isn't good. That can also foul plugs. It will increase oil consumption. It'll be basically oil will be able to get inside of the cylinders and you'll start burning oil. It'll also increase the resistance for your engine to move, causing excessive heat. So none of that sounds good. Best thing, fill it up to the amount you're supposed to have and just keep a couple quarts with you in the trunk and fill it up whenever you need to. You cannot top off your engine with conventional oil if you have synthetic already inside and vice versa. This kind of goes back to the last question that we had about synthetic and conventional being mixed. This, yet again, is a myth. And it is a myth because synthetic and conventionals a long time ago weren't really compatible to be mixed, but oil has changed a lot over the years, and now there's absolutely no problem to switch or mix any kind of conventional synthetic oil. You can mix and blend as much as you want, and that goes back to when I was talking about synthetic blends. That's conventional and synthetic mixed into one. If you have synthetic oil, you can top it off with conventional, and if you have conventional, you can top it off with synthetic. The only difference is that if you top it off with conventional and you have synthetic, you're going to, in essence, dilute the synthetic oil that's already in there, and you're going to lessen the benefits that synthetic oil can give you. That's pretty much it. That doesn't mean it's bad for your engine. Once you use a certain viscosity, you must keep using it. This is not true, kind of true, but not. Reason being, oil weights for multi-viscosity or single viscosity is dependent a lot of the time on ambient temperature. If you live in a cold climate or you live in a hot climate, there's going to be different oil weights that can compensate for that temperature difference. Out here in Las Vegas, we get really hot in the summer, and because of that, not only is it hot out here, but the engine also gets hot, which means it gets really hot inside there. So they have a temperature rating for this, or an oil viscosity rating for the temperature out here. And you'll also notice that some quick lube places will start changing their oil weights once it starts to cool down or heat up to make sure that people are riding in the conditions with the correct weight for their vehicle, depending on ambient temperature. Some cars are only one viscosity and one viscosity only, controlling all ranges of the ambient temperature levels, so they only have one oil viscosity rating. There isn't much of a difference between conventional and synthetic oils. So I've heard this a lot. People like to think that because synthetic and conventional oil all come from the same barrel, from the same spot, from the same hole in the ground, that they're exactly the same, one's just more expensive than the other, and that is not entirely true, but it's partially true. It is true that synthetic and conventional oils, except Pennzoil, because Pennzoil is made differently, but synthetic and conventional oils do come from the same crude oil byproducts that they use to make all these oils from all these different companies. The difference is how they're manufactured. After they get the crude oil, for let's say conventional oil, they will refine it and then they will throw in an additive package and throw it on the shelves and sell it. But synthetic oil goes that same route. They refine it, but then they also further refine it, purify it, and make it a much more pure oil and change the structure of it slightly. Then they add their own additive package, and now it's good to go. It's out on the shelves. The difference is just the benefits that you get with synthetic, and it's up to you to decide if the benefits are worth it or not. Synthetic oil is fake or man-made oil? That's a good one. This goes back to the last question. There's one question to go. It is true that the additive packages are man-made. However, the base oil that came from crude oil is totally organic, came from the ground. That's not man-made, but the additive package is. So I guess part of it is man-made. Synthetic oil causes sludge. Synthetic oil contains powerful detergents that prevent and break up sludge. If your car already had it, it'll help remove it, and it will also prevent any new sludge from forming. The reason sludge happens, and I'm not saying this is the only reason, there's plenty of other reasons, but the main reason is improper oil change intervals. Change your oil frequently, whenever it needs to be done, and you'll never run into sludge. All right, so that's it. Oil myths, 20 of them, taken care of. If you liked it, let me know. Let me know if you have any other ideas for future videos, and I'll see if I can address them. I'll most likely be making a multimeter video pretty soon, and we'll see how that goes. But I really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks again.